Yes. So basically, what I think you all of you are doing this experiment also, right? The first experiment, which is about the identifying the components, and then Ohm's law, and then Thevenin other thing. So this is a how we do into the laboratory physically. So this is a video which was created. So I think I will share this link to all of you. So this is basically for Monday one, but you can see this video as well. So the purpose here to just to show you about the device. So how about the diode looks like? So this is a black one, but you see this D1 which is mentioned on this, so is a silicon, and this to identify this cathode anode. I think I will just explain you. There is a silver color stripe, so that corresponds to N side. That means this is a cathode, and rest the other side it is a anode. That's a P side, and there's another diode which is beneath it. Is basically it's basically the germanium. So how do we make sure how do we check whether it's a silicon or whether it's a germanium? We simply use a multimeter. So I think I'll just show you about that. Okay, so this is how. So what you see onto the multimeter, you will find it out. There's a scale, different scales. One is the voltage, right? This is a voltage, and the next to the voltage, what you see, this is the diode symbol. So basically, we turn this knob onto the towards the diode symbol, and we'll be able to find out the voltage drop. So if the voltage drop is goes, let's say, up to 0.6, 0.7, uh, so it means that corresponds to about that is a silicon based. If it is a between 0.2 to 0.4, so it's basically is a germanium based diode. So we can measure it by just putting. So if we have to put up N side to be the black color means the ground, so negative terminal, and this one red one you have to put up towards P side, then we can identify about it. I think I'll just take it up this one. This is basically measuring resistor here. Okay, let's see if it works, whether you can see this. So this is varies here, right? What you see this fluctuation number because the loose connection, but it is between 0.6 to 0.7. Now there's another diode, the beneath one is around 0.274. So that's mean that's the blue one is the germanium one, and the upper one, the black one, it was the silicon based diode. Okay, so I think you can see the and another component what you see on this board, basically other than this diode, this is a transistor here, and this one is also a transistor, and the rest is some this is a resistor, capacitor, and there's an inductor here. This is an inductor, and some other on to the right hand side basically is the resistor and capacitors, right? So that's about this. Now back to the general diode is not visible on this one. I thought maybe I can find it out, but there's another board. So basically, probably next time I'll show you the general diode as well. So just hold on, let me save the file. Yeah, do you have any questions?
Sir,
Yes,
I had question from the last class. Like
yes,
we studied about those NP PN junction and all those things. Sir,
yes.
what led to the discovery or invention of these things? I mean, I'm not sure whether I should use discovery or I should use invention. That's why I'm using both the words. Like, how were they discovered that they can perform so many tasks like these, and which you have also mentioned in this slide, and
Yeah.
how are they made? I mean, these days, and how were they made in those times? Can you please just give a brief overview, sir?
Okay, so how like this historical perspective, kind of
Yes,
like
sir.
how they've
Yes,
been
sir.
so. Okay, I had to recap it with the kind of a deadline, but anyway, so this is So they got a crystal, of course, it's a crystal. So it started the doping, right? So when you, let's say silicon, of course, it was known as semiconductor, right? When they measured it, and this in a semiconductor is allow, let's say if you take a simple, of course, the purity was not there up to that mark, but they measured the current flow. So when the doping is has been added, so doping like say whether it's N type or P type, then we may fabricate, basically it's a kind of like a, we consider one kind of substrate, which is silicon, which is a, let's say either P type or N type doped, right? So we take as a substrate kind of like a let's say one layer, right? It's kind of like a some thick, let's say some thick of few micrometers, and then you dope it. Then you have the kind of like we create we dope it, so we create another one. Silicon has been deposited with the N type impurity, so it's something like layered structure. So then this is how did they kind of like I mean like how your question is kind of like something like on to the invention,
How,
right?
how did they get the idea that they can use these things for so many applications?
Yeah, I did mean the applications because they measure this kind of like a characteristics behavior, and then they definitely once they look into the different behavior. So that's going to explain about the forward bias and the reverse bias, right? So we have this gallium arsenide, silicon, gallium arsenide, germanium. So the material availability. So I can give you a probably much probably I think I will prepare one slide or two slides on that, and then I can
Yes, sir.
say
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
discuss this
We can
later on.
discuss it later.
Sure,
Yes.
sure, definitely that'll be better. I
Yes, sir.
prepared one
Sure, sure.
or two slides. I think that will make a with the year-wise timeline. I think that will be good for you.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. No problem, sir.
Just hold on.
Sir, is there any color coding on diode to differentiate between germanium or silicon diode?
Is it any
Color coding like register?
color
This is-
coding? It is the transparent for the germanium, which you see onto the board, and the black color, which you see, of course, it is a silicon. And for the Jenner diode, it is slightly oranges and red in color. So if you open the charger, let's say if you open your mobile charger, you'll find out the silicon diode. I will show you it actually. Let's say tomorrow I will show you that. I will bring the charger and open it, and then see that there is the diodes which are black color with the silver stripe on the one end. That means this for distinct, or let's say distinguishing the P side or N side. So just to know there is a negative terminal and this is a positive terminal to connect, make the connections, right? And then for Zener diode, it is again is but a little bit oranges and red color, so that you can distinguish. And for germanium is a little bit transparent, which you see on the board. So I'll share you that video. I think you can see in your offline time whenever. So I will share you that video. This we created this Monday. I went to the lab and then we created this video just to show the students. So you can see this video and you can easily see the, though because I'm sharing from here, it may not be very good quality, but you can see the video. I will share link with you, all of you, so you can have a look. Right. Okay.
Sir?
Any? Yes.
Sir,
Yes, please.
the video you just showed us, there were no
Yes.
wires visible.
Yes.
How the connections?
Okay,
was-
so the connection, the back, it is on the back side. Okay, let's see. Okay, so what you do actually, just hold on. Let me open it once again, that video. Just hold on. Are you able to see now? Okay, so I think there is a somewhere I have shown it the reverse side. Just hold on. So what you see onto this board, let's say, for example, let's stop here on this side. So what you see, this line which you see, right? This with the stripe. So this is all the this is the connection. So if I reverse this board, this is all in-house mode, in-house made. So if I make it reverse, just reverse it. So what you see, there is a connections with the copper wire, were kind of like stripe. So they are like connected. So we just connect the plug in the wires on this side. We can measure it about the resistance. Either we can touch the resistors also, or we can just plug in the wires on this side so that we can measure this resistor values same way. So what you see, this kind of like a stripe one, it is basically the ground. And let me see if it is available. I think I've shown it that. So long. Okay, so you can see this kind of like a jumper wire, additional wires, we make the connection. So this is basically an experiment about RNC. So you can see there is a one resistor here. If you see the mouse, so here the one resistor and this capacitor. So we are taking output across this capacitor. So we put the input from the signal generator, which is on the side, and then make the ground connections. So this is a ground, black one, and the red one which we are connecting through the signal generator as input. That's input sinusoidal signal, and then we are taking output across from across the capacitor. So this is basically an RC. So I think here. So this is on the top. It is nothing, is a signal generator. That's a function generator which we call. So we can generate different kind of like a variety of functions. Maybe sinusoidal. We can do the triangular input as well as a square wave. And then you can do the different kind of like frequency. You can change frequency by this knob here, and the amplitude can be controlled by this knob as well as certain buttons on this side. And on oscilloscope, there is a 2-channel oscilloscope. So 2-channel means you can see the black color probe which is here on the left hand, and there's another one on the right hand side. So basically we, as in a customer, kind of like we first, the left ones, we take it as an input. So we just connect the input list so that we can visualize how the input looks like, and then compare. And when we measure the output, we measure the output across this using the second probe, and then we press the dual button onto the oscilloscope. We can see the both input and output together actually. So this is right now input, and then same we can control its amplitude by wearing this knob, and position can be controlled by Y position, that's a vertical, and horizontal position by the X position. So I think I can see there was some reflection because of the light from within the room. So what you see, but you can see, I think might be clear. So you can see this is an output. So input and output together. Upper one is input and below one is an output here. So I think this has been shown when you change the frequency. When we're changing the frequency, you can see the amplitude of output decreases as kind of this a kind of like low pass filter, as keep on increasing frequency because we are measuring output across the capacitor. So this is RNC, kind of like the same thing. We can see keep on changing frequency, and it's almost become negligible, very very low value. So that's corresponds to kind of like we can find out it's kind of like a 3 dB point and cutoff frequency. So this is how the pulse response looks like. So this is because of reflection, they see the double, but it's basically square and it is an output. But you see the here, but we change the, let's say, frequency from there, we can again, yeah, now it's better clear. So this is input square wave, and then this is an output, how the output looks like. And now I think I can see I'm changing the frequency from the signal generator. So you are having a kind of like a different waveform. So this is on just to show you once again frequency response on overlapping each other. And I think there was for this is triangular wave generation. You can see this, I think it will be good. I can see the offline, this is the differentiator. So just to see here now we change the output across the, instead of capacitor is output across the resistor, and how the function. Okay, this was from, so I have to edit, probably have to stop here and then I can share with you this. Right, so your questions, anything? Board, I think I have, let me see if I have shown that anywhere. Let's see if it is visible from the. Sorry, I think what, let me see if there is a, I have no idea. To check it out, which position it is, I reverse the board. So they are connected in from the reverse side, they're connected. Right. Okay. Any other questions you have? Okay, so we proceed further. Okay. So actually yesterday I discussed about this, I think that's continuing from there, the forward biasing and the reverse biasing. So there is some minor error is here on this side. So n instead of numerator, this is actually in denominator. So I realized later on that this has to be exponential Vd over n Vt minus 1. So actually this is this was wrong, so this is now correct. So n is your this is basically it's a ideality factor, so that depends on to the construction of the diode, construction of p-n junction, and also material. So for this case, let's say what we are going to do it is basically we are going to just consider n equals to 1 for rest of your, let's say, during for this diode based application, diode based circuits, right? And the Vd is applied voltage.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, in the second equation in this slide, like ID is equal to IS. So, sir,
Yes.
what is IS, sir?
IS is reverse saturation current.
Which is reverse saturation. And ID is drift current.
Yeah, ID is not is a current which is flowing through the diode p-n junction. So basically, this ID is your current,
Diode
which is
current.
being considered diode current, that you can say. So because in the forward bias condition, this is the majority of charge flow. So I'm going to explain this once again. So because the diffusion process, it's all the majority charge carriers, or let's say majority charge carriers from the p side moves to the n side, which is the holes, and from n side, which are electrons, that moves to the p side. But these holes, as reaches to the n-type region, becomes minority carriers. Same way, the carriers which moves from the, let's say, n side, which are electrons, when it reaches to the p side, it become a minority carriers. So basically, the current which is here, because there's large number of charge carriers are there, as well as and to see this current high value, can, since you are seeing that there's the voltage is applied, so it means you can also, we can also understand since the positive terminal is connected to the p side, so simply it is supplying an kind of like let's say the holes to the p side, and whereas the electrons are being supplied to the towards this n-type region. So that's the reason that constitutes the current which is flowing across the p-n junction, and that's we call as the current or diode current. So we model this. We get it as there is a whole complete derivation that's part of your, let's say, solid state physics, or let's say in there. So we get it, this equation we call a Shockley equation, and this equation is actually been called as a Shockley equation. So you get it IS, which is reverse saturation current, and this reverse saturation current is basically so this comes because of the, as I mentioned to you, as I mentioned yesterday also, because of the thermally generated carriers. Thermally generated carrier in the sense some covalent bonds break down because of the thermal agitation, and those act as an if they break down into n-type, so the holes become minority carriers in the n side because of this process. and if there is a covalent bond which is breaking on the p side, so electrons become a magnetic charge carrier. So what happens here, actually they constitutes, so as it passes, so they constitute the current, which is very small in magnitude. So basically this goes in order of depending on to again onto the material, right, as well as on doping, of course, onto the how do we construct it. So basically it's order of picoampere, nanoampere, microampere, whereas the ID is the order of this is quite large value. So it goes order of kind of like a milliampere, the ID together diode across. So and saturation, we call this is saturation current, saturation, because it become maximum and kind of like, as I will explain you, it's become maximum and we cannot change it as we keep on changing the voltage applied it. So that's the reason that we call a reverse saturation current. So IS is your reverse saturation current, and reverse because you are doing into the is getting magnitudes large into the, that's when you have the reverse bias connection. So that's it's going into flow also, we can understand, because ID is into this direction and the IS is into this direction, right? Because of your because of the, let's say, the holes which are onto the thermally generated holes which are here, it moves, and the electrons which are onto this side, magnetic charge carrier, they move it. So the electron moving on this side, so here the direction here and the holes in this direction. So that constitutes the reverse saturation current here because magnetic carriers. It's clear?
Sir, what is VT?
VT is the thermal voltage. VT is the thermal voltage or energy. So which is your KBT divided by Q. And that's approximately 26 millivolt when T is 300 Kelvin. And T is 300 Kelvin at the most room temperature. This is around 26 millivolt. Okay, so I think I'll just once again we'll go to the reverse bias. Explain you what's happening there. So under the, let's start with the reverse bias configuration. So I'm just showing this donor atoms and the acceptor atoms, and what you on this side is the holes, the magnetic charge carriers, and some electrons, magnetic charge carriers, where is the electrons, these are magnetic charge carriers, and some holes onto this side. Right, as soon as we connect we make it this as a reverse bias. So it means the P side has to be connected to the negative terminal of the battery. So there's a P side, there's a N side. So as soon as, so what's going to happen in this case, so if we look into if you connect the external battery, let's say V external, so your electric field is in this direction, whereas this is for let's say the electric field for internal, and let's say this is external field. So there's no voltage drop VB, I think I mentioned with the VBI. So what does it mean when you plot it, let's say X, the potential barrier, this was your VBI, or I mentioned with the VO or VNO, right? So as soon as you connect this negative terminal to the P side, what's going to happen in this case, we can understand, for understanding, you can say since the negative terminal, so holes is getting attracted towards it will be attracted towards negative terminal, where the electrons is going to attract towards the negative terminal, and during this process, so they are going to uncover, let's say uncover, because they are simply neutralizing the acceptor atoms. So in this process, as the holes are moving from this P side region towards let's say negative terminal, and the electrons on the other side moving from the from N side to the positive terminal. In this process, they uncover the fixed or mobile items, which is your acceptor atoms. So So it means you get a space charge region is enhanced. Space charge region is enhanced. So that means that the width, the depletion width, which was initially, let's say, W, is changes to the slightly increase. So this process cannot be continued. But this process cannot be continued because the holes has to be supplied, right? So which is not possible because holes cannot be supplied to the P side same way to this. So this or we can, in other words, we can understand the potential barrier, since it's the same direction, so the potential barrier increases. So it goes to VBI plus, let's say, V, which we applied the voltage across this PN junction, let's say V external, which I said. So its potential barrier increases. So it means the carriers, which are the majority charge carriers here on P side, which are holes, they cannot cross this potential barrier. So it stops the flow. It stops the flow. So there is no kind of like a majority charge further diffusion allowed, and also because of this rise into the potential barrier, right? Whereas if we look into the, let's say, current which is being constituted, so as I mentioned before also, so because of the, let's say, thermal energy or thermal agitation, so some covalent bonds may break within the depletion region. Let's say within the depletion region, nearby depletion, some covalent bonds break down, and the electron hole pairs is generated. So you get one electron hole pair is generated, and because of the presence of this field, right, it gets swept away. So get swept away means it get swept away. So you get the electrons being attracted, it constitutes and goes to the positive terminal, whereas the holes is going towards like this. So that's thermal agitation. It's not because of the diffusion process, because diffusion process stops. So because of the thermal agitation, some covalent bonds break down, and this constitutes it gets swept away because of the force that is being exerted by the field, and they reaches that constitutes a current, which we call as a reverse. And saturation, I'm bringing it because as you keep on increasing the voltage, suppose you keep on increasing this voltage, so what's going to happen if I draw it onto let's say I, and this is V, since we are into the reverse bias, so it has a values keep on changing, but as what's going to happen, I keep on increasing the voltage. Let's say you keep on increasing voltage this is started, and then may go into certain breakdown. If you keep on increasing, this may enter into certain breakdown. Breakdown means that's the current, the reverse saturation current suddenly increases, but that increase in the sense is order of microampere, not in the order of milliampere. So basically this is generally order of kind of like a microampere to the nanoampere. This is an order of microampere to nanoampere, and this voltage, and that this a breakdown happens, that I'm going to explain, let's say, after the forward biasing. So what at voltage at which this breakdowns happens, that's breakdown voltage or peak inverse voltage we call as a peak reverse voltage. So that means that's a maximum voltage that can be applied to a PN junction or to the diode that can sustain before it breaks down. So that's we define as a, because this is the most quite important parameter, which is used to, let's say, when you buy a diode, when you create a device, let's say circuit, you have to identify, you have to pick up the right diode. So you need to find it out whether what's the maximum voltage that it can sustain in the reverse bias. So it's not breakdown means it's not burnt out, right? If we are, so maximum energy, so maximum dissipation energy that can be sustained hold by the device. So that can be again there can be a two breakdown might be possible. So I'm just denoting this. So this is one kind of like a one breakdown here, another breakdown I'm showing it here. So that's I'm going to explain. I will back to the onto the reverse bias once again. Let's say after one more important point here. What you see here, since there's is a charge accumulated at this side, charge accumulated on this side, so it acts as this PN junction in the reverse bias. It's also can behave as can give rise to the capacitance. So it can act as a capacitor. So diode can also be used in the reverse bias to create some switching or some transient kind of like a behavior, transient, because it acts as a capacitor. It acts as a capacitor. It has a certain width W, which is a function of applied voltage into reverse bias direction, and some other functions. So it acts as a capacitor as well. So which is your which we can write down as an junction capacitance. So basically it's a junction capacitance, that's a J. When you have not applied any kind of like a voltage in reverse bias, CJ0 divided by 1 plus reverse voltage divided by built-in potential, and CJ0 is basically is the junction capacitance, is the junction capacitance when no voltage is applied. When no voltage is applied in reverse bias, means like it's open. So what's the, if you measure the capacitance, that's a CJ0, which is we since is the definition of C is, I think we know epsilon A by D. So D is the depletion width, A is the cross section area of the device, and epsilon is your epsilon is the dielectric medium, so is silicon. So we can find it out this. So depletion width definition already known to you, so we can just make use of. So I just rewriting it, the depletion width W is your nothing is 2 epsilon S for silicon Q 1 over NA plus 1 over ND, and then we have a VBI, and epsilon S is 11.7 epsilon 0. So this is a dielectric constant for silicon. Right, so we can find it out then. So it means we can find out CJ0, we can find out by this definition. We can find out, so CJ0 is epsilon S A divided by W, and then we can find out the junction capacitance when you apply the reverse bias. So it means, so if I have this device, let's say diode, if I just connect it, so this line which I'm drawing means this is the N side, this is the P side. So if when we connect it, let's say reverse bias configuration, if I'm changing this reverse bias voltage, I can also vary also the capacitance. I can also vary the junction capacitance. So it means varying the capacitance. So for different frequency at high frequency, so it means we can go for transient behavior of the device as well. We can also go for, we can understand also transient behavior of this device. Right. So now regarding for the forward bias, for case of forward bias, see, have the holes on the majority charge carriers, and then minority charge carriers, some electrons. Right, so when you connect it, so this is your depletion region when it is, there is no voltage is applied. So this is actual what's a potential barrier. So let's say this is your W. When you connect the P side, when you connect the P side, so actually these are the all ohmic contacts. So we are neglecting, let's say, resistance which is being offered by the let's say voltage drop because of the these ohmic contacts. These metal contacts. So this is the certain resistance we right now we're neglecting. So this is you apply the voltage here, let's say P external, and now see the field which is E internal field here, and since here is the E external, Now, if you look into the potential barrier here, as you apply, so there's an initial field was the built-in potential VBE, and since we apply it is an opposite direction, internal electric field and the external electric field, so it's lowered down. So it's lowered down by VBI minus V, which is external, so it's lowered. So it means what happens here, or we can understand that since the potential barrier lowers down, so what's going to happen, the initial potential barrier was simply opposing, right, the diffusion process, opposing the diffusion process, the charge flow from the carriers flow from the p side to the n side, that's the hose going from the p side to the n side, same way from electrons from n side to the p side. And since there is a potential barrier reduced, so what's going to happen, this width actually it shrinks, its depletion width shrinks here, so now W is become W prime, but W prime is less than, now let's say W, right? So it's so then you get the charge carriers which are the majority onto the p side, they flow, they cross the junction and they flow, they constitute the current. Same way the electrons, they can flow from the n side to the p side, and the holes which are on the p side as crosses to the junction goes to the n side is become magnetic carriers, and same way the electrons which reach to the p side becomes a magnetic carriers. So electrons which is flowing from here to here, the holes which are going from here, they constitute the current. So the current which is being constituted simply the sum of the summation of the currents, or due to the electron flow, due to the holes flow, right? That's so that current that's constituted to be the ID, right, because your holes are flowing in this direction, electrons is going this direction, so that also have a current in the same direction. So the current for the forward bias direction goes from P to N, so it enter from the P, it leaves the N terminal. So this device, P side, N side, so the current flow into this side, this direction, so go from P to N side, right, in forward bias. So the depletion width is again it decreases here, it cannot be kind of completely it's not that possible that completely becomes zero, but it's not, so there is a certain width as it shrinks, and that allows the flow of the charge carriers. And then if you look into the on IV characteristics, as soon as since it's there's nothing, there won't be any current this flowing into the, as it reaches to a certain voltage, as it crosses the built-in potential, as it crosses the built-in potential means the voltage which you applied externally, as it becomes small, almost equal or larger than the built-in potential, there is a rise into the current which flows through this device component, and it can grow exponentially as you increasing the voltage. Sorry, this is not very good graph. What happened? So anyway, so this point, actually this point we call as an turn in, the diodes turn on, so diode becomes on onto this as soon as V becomes larger than the VBI, so diode become on, so turn in, or sometimes also it's called as a cut in voltage, which is, this is nothing is the voltage drop. We can understand this nothing is the voltage drop across the potential barrier, because potential barrier is VBI. Is for the silicon, as I mentioned to you, for the silicon it is for case of, it's moving. So for case of silicon, this number goes from 0.5 to, again depend on to the construction doping level. So this number actually highly doping dependent, is 0.7 volt. So depend on totally on doping. If the doping is quite high, this built-in potential decreases, because your depletion, there will be large charge carrier flow, of course, that we can understand, and then the depletion width is become less in that case, and the built-in potential which is being generated is will be less. So for high doping concentration, let's say which is on the P side or N side, is this number is maybe smaller, like 0.5, but for standard diodes which we use, let's say for the rectification, not for the power diode, for rectification other applications, basically this goes between 0.5 to 0.7 volt, and for the germanium it is a 0.2 to 0.4 volt. Right, so the another point is okay, so if I look into the so the current which flows, that's into the thing I've written already. So basically that's in the forward bias, that's the ID, the Shockley equation, IS exponential VD over N VT minus 1. So where VD is applied voltage across the device, and N is ideality factor. This is an ideality factor, so that depends on construction of diode and maybe the material. Right, so for and IS is your reverse saturation current. IS is reverse saturation current, and please also remember this reverse saturation current IS, actually, since I didn't give an expression, but there is, yes, so it depends on cross section area, so it depends on cross sectional area as well as temperature. Of course, as I'm, because the magnetic carriers which are being generated because of thermal agitation, so if you increase the temperature, you get more magnetic carriers will be generated in P side or N side, and that gives rise to a slightly increase into the reverse saturation current. Right, so what we write down here, so this IS basically reverse saturation current is comes to be A cross section area Q, and I square your intrinsic carrier concentration, Dn is your diffusivity for the electrons or diffusion coefficient for electrons, and Ln and A plus dP over this is Lp and D, where okay, A is your cross sectional area.
Can you go to the previous slide?
Yes, 1 second. Yeah, yes.
So what is this ideality factor?
Okay, so that's actually instead also I mentioned this, so this is basically how the diode construction from material, so it's a basically physical construction made. So we generally take is the values are between 1 and 2, so this number has been is between 1 and 2, and for our case, for our situation, we'll consider n to be 1. So this number can go between 1 and 2. Some constant. So A is the cross section area of the PN junction of the cross section area of PN junction, and I is your intrinsic carrier concentration. So you can see this is a temperature dependent, and Dn, dP are the diffusion coefficients or diffusivity, diffusion coefficient for electrons. So that's represented by the N, and what happened? Just hold on, something like that. Let's scroll back. Just hold on 1 second. Yeah. Okay. for electron N, and for holes that's P, and Ln and Lp are the diffusion length, corresponds to the N and P. So diffusion length is since your concentration gradient is there, as I mentioned to you. So basically, what's the diffusion length? So that's we calculate we, and Na and Nd is your doping concentration. Doping concentration in the sense for acceptor atoms. That's a pentavalent. Sorry, trivalent, and Nd is a donor atom. So this is a pentavalent. So doping concentration of impurities. So we can see that. So as a rule, actually, as a thumb rule, so this IS, reverse saturation current, it doubles every 10 degree centigrade rise. So if there is change in the, let's say, if there is change into 10 degree centigrade, you are operating the device, let's say at room temperature and let's say 25 degrees centigrade, and now if you take it, let's say 35 degrees centigrade, right, environment, like where if there is no thermal encapsulating thing is happening, right, if there's then device the may behave slightly different way. So the reverse saturation current, as in a thumb rule, it's doubles every 10 degrees centigrade rise in temperature, and whereas V gamma, that's a built-in potential V gamma, whereas your built-in potential VBI, or you'll see that we now will be using this V gamma. It's almost decreases. It's decreases by approximately 2 millivolt per degree centigrade as T increases. So it means when we now if I let's say plot this, so V on this side, I on this side, so negative voltage, and if we look into the so you have on and you may have this is somewhere here, let's say, and just make it for drawing. So this is basically let's say this is at T0, this is the T1, and it's not a very good drawing, but what I want to show you, that's T2, and then you have this. Actually there may need to change, so doubles means like kind of like it should go a little bit down and then up and then up. So basically, so the temperature increases, so temperature increases means T0, T2 is larger than T1, larger than T0. So you can see the voltage, the built-in potential, let's say here, here, and here, it decreases as V, so V gamma decreases as T increases. Same way as V gamma also decreases as you increase the doping, as you increase the Na or Nd. If you increase also V gamma decreases doping concentration. Right, so this is this we call as a IV characteristics of a PN junction, of a PN junction or diode. So basically you represent, so this is the P side, this is N side, this is minus, this is a plus, and we represent within a symbol, here. So that corresponds to N, this corresponds to the P, the symbol of a diode. This is symbol of a diode. So vertical line corresponds to N, and triangular is the P, or represent the P. Right. So this is, I think, we'll make we'll take some break for 10 minutes and then we'll continue. And this voltage, as I mentioned, is nothing, is a V gamma, and that's we call as a turn in or cut in voltages. And this is for the so I'm going to explain about this. Let's say after this we'll take a break and we'll discuss this one. So let's resume at 9:10. So that was it with the temperature, and let me just show you all the characteristics for different materials. I think that will also be good for you to get acquainted. And this I which I am drawing, actually, this is, I think I should have mentioned here also. This is nothing is ID, which is order of milliampere, and this is basically reverse saturation current, which is order of microampere on this side, and this is the voltage which applied. For this somewhere here is coming up, so the reverse, and let me draw the figure first, then I'll explain you. So this is green one is a gallium arsenide material, and the blue one silicon, and this germanium. So basically it's 0.3, 0.7. This is around 1.2, approximately 1.2. So this is for germanium, this is for silicon, and that's for gallium arsenide. And on the x-axis, y-axis, I forgot to put up. So this is a V in voltage, this is a current I. So basically the ID in milliampere. This is order of microampere, and this is roughly is a picoampere, the green one. So this is for different material, but the diode is, let's say, made of germanium or silicon or gallium arsenide. So how the turn-in voltage IV characteristics for this metal looks like, let's say, right? Since most of your electronic devices basically silicon based, so we are going to stick to the silicon based system. And firstly, if you change in temperature, then the system, let's say if you increase temperature, the V gamma decreases for this is for the silicon, which I have drawn it into the this slide, right? So okay, and I think let's explain you about the breakdown, as I mentioned to you. So let's look into the two mechanisms. Okay, let me draw the first figure. So I'm just drawing on the reverse direction. minus V. So that's a possibility too. So as I mentioned to you in the reverse bias configuration into this configuration, so I'm just doing the figure here. For the P-N junction, what happens as you keep on increasing the voltage, right? So region increases. Region increase means you get more unbounded charges onto the N side as well as the P side. So depletion width increases, and this cannot happen, right? Keep on continuing unless there is supply. But as you keep on increasing, what happens is barrier may break down, and that barrier may break down, and then you will find out the flow of the charge carriers. That's again uh, the charge carriers, which is constitute the reverse saturation current. This constitutes the reverse saturation current. For normal diode, this process the breakdown, there's two breakdown might be possible. So one is kind of like a one breakdown we call an avalanche breakdown, and the breakdown we call as the Zener breakdown. So the key difference between these two mechanisms. So let's say this VZK, and this is for, I would say V for avalanche A. This is happening. Okay, so let's understand for avalanche breakdown process. So basically, into the system, into this, let's say in PN junction, which is under the reverse bias, configuration. So this is the P side, this is the N side here, which is into the reverse bias configuration. So the covalent bond which breaks down, right, which is let's say the electron, or let's say which is less thermally generated carriers. Thermally generated carriers means that which are present there. It acquires a sufficient kinetic energy. To, let's say, because it's wandering here and there, it's making a random collision with the stationary atoms. Stationary atoms are basically, it may be your impurities, which is acceptor or donor atoms, or it is a silicon atom itself. So those are stationary atoms. So the electron which is wandering here, it may acquire sufficient kinetic energy because of the field which is applied into this. So it acquires sufficient kinetic energy to knock out, to make the covalent bonds to break down and knock out one electron. So once there is a one electron is knocked down by another electron by this, so it releases the one electron hole pair. So let's consider in this way. So let's say this is the one mighty charge carries electron, right? And it acquires a sufficient kinetic energy because of the field, and then it let's say which is a parent atom, which might be silicon or any. So it's what's happening, it's strike and it releases, it's make that this electron is knock out the electron. So once the electron is knocked out from here, so it means one hole is also being generated. So it releases, so the knockout electrons which are releases due to this process, also they acquire sufficient kinetic energy. They also gain the same amount of kinetic energy, and that it moves through the, it is going wandering into the system in the sense this is a, let's say, the lattice system, which is here, which is p and n type system. So it goes to the another one. So this knockout electron again releases to the another covalent bond, knock out the another electron from another covalent bond. So it releases one electron hole pair, and this process keep on increasing. So this may release one more, and this may have sufficient energy, so it releases another electron. So the process become avalanche. So it become multiplication of the charge carriers that give rise to this process. This process we call an avalanche breakdown, and this happens at the very high voltages. So the difference, the key difference between the Zener and this would be that is a normal diode. For example, your normal electronic diode, which you've seen, it's a black color, right? Which you have shown into, let's say, with the black color on the silver stripe. So this voltage is roughly, it can go up to 25 volt. It can range 25 to more than that 25 volt or 50 or 100 volt might be possible. right? So quite large electric field is required to reach to this avalanche breakdown. But so we don't use really like we are not entering into the avalanche breakdown region for obvious, of course, for not required for this application. But you can create a certain nice application out of this. I'm not sure how many you've heard about it. There is an we call as a photo detectors, which are based on this process, avalanche photo detectors, APDs, which we call, and quite useful for, let's say, they've been used for detecting the single events. So basically, when you go for the quantum computing or those applications, such kind of like a photo detectors are required, because you have to apply large voltage, of course, and to reduce the noise, you have to put a little temperature as well. But this is not a part of here. Just want to one specify one application. One can go for avalanche kind of like a photo detectors when there is a signal is very low, and you want to really and see that signal, so that we can we can detect it. You want to see that means we want to detect it. One can use the APDs basically, and that's quite we use it basically in communication. We use such kind of detectors in the communication, make out of the this process. So if you look into the another process, which is which we call as Jenner breakdown. So this process is happens actually because of tunneling. Actually, this is basically because tunneling. Tunneling effect means we create an let's say electric field quite high, so that the covalent bonds breaks. So it is a kind of like we create a high electric field. We create a high electric field such that covalent bonds break, and then this give rise to release of one electron hole pair, and then electron goes to the conduction holes in the stays into the valence band. That's kind of like a tunneling effect. So how means we need to create a very high electric field, and this high electric field is order of 10 power 7 volt per meter. So to create such a high electric field, what we had to do, so there are the two processes which we can adopt. One is we can go for, of course, high doping. So if we look into the V is equals to ED, so if we let's say, so it means if I decrease the depletion width, if I decrease the depletion region, if I decrease the depletion width, so what can I can do? We can achieve very high electric field, right? E is inversely proportional to D, so we can go for high electric field, right? So how to achieve that narrow depletion width? How to achieve, let's say, narrow depletion width is that is possible by having high doping. So basically, this kind of like a uh, diode, which is we call as a Zener diode, is our all our or kind of like let's say we deliberately we make it deliberately, make a high doping into such systems such that and high under a reverse bias condition, and high electric field can be generated, and that can give rise to the kind of like this breakdown mechanism. What is the advantage here? So this such type of diodes we call a Zener diode, as I mentioned to you. So it is basically it's little bit reds and oranges in color for the color code, but when you look into symbol, it's basically the symbol to differentiate between the Zener diode, and this is your normal diode here. So this is a Zener diode. It looks like a like a Z symbol, right? And this is a normal diode. So a normal diode, electron diode, you have the avalanche breakdown may happen depending on to the voltage which you apply. But to create a Zener, and this Zener breakdown happens at low voltages, maybe 5 to 7 volt, 5 to 10 volt, it may happen between this range, 5 to 10 volt, this may realize. And what you see advantage, so this can be device can be used for regulate the voltages, because you keep on increasing the voltage, there is no change because you get the constant current. You can see a constant current would be there even if you change it. Let's say if you take it here, keep on increasing the voltage, you find out the constant current is being produced. So it can be used as in a kind of like a, so we use the Zener breakdown basically, or Zener breakdown this reason basically to regulate the voltages. And also, so it means you can also use to produce a constant power supply, can also give rise to the constant power supply to the system. Right. So for example, I think I will discuss this when we go for the rectification, when we talk on to the regulation part. We'll give you with the load. For example, it can be your let's say you are listening to a music, right? From the, let's say you're listening to a music, and when you change the volume, right? You change the volume, simply it draws a different amount of current. It draws a different amount of current from the power supply. So it means there's a kind of like fluctuation. So load can vary from in terms of this. So we can create a kind of like a very nice voltage power constant power supply can be created using this mechanism. So key difference between this and this, the process between the both process. Uh, this is the high free electron, which is because of the like the minority electrons onto the p side, or let's say which is taken from the thermal generation process. It acquires sufficient kinetic energy to knock out the electrons from the covalent bond, and simply rupturing the covalent bond, and this process continues, and that gives rise to the avalanche. So multiplication of different charge carriers. So that's the avalanche breakdown. Where case on the Jenner breakdown, this is again is the covalent bond is breakdown, but it's not the process here acquiring sufficient kinetic energy, but the electron or the charge carriers tunnels to the conduction band and conduct. So to realize this kind of like a mechanism, we need to have very high electric field, order of 10 power 7 volt per meter, and that can be realized by having high doping. If you do the large doping into the system, you simply shrink this depletion width, and decreasing depletion width simply suggests it means that it turns out that the electric field that is going to be into the depletion is quite high, right? So that's a Zener breakdown, and this is an avalanche. So if you have any queries onto this, questions? So the maximum, as I mentioned, is the maximum reverse bias voltage. Maximum reverse bias voltage, which can be applied, that can be applied to the diode or to the p-n junction, to the diode before it enters into the breakdown. We call as a peak inverse voltage or peak reverse voltage. So this is basically PIV or PRV. So whenever we talk onto the rectification, so we'll find out that which configuration we are going to work into in let's say the full wave rectification. Why should we choose a bridge, or should we go for center tape? So basically that determines by the peak inverse voltage. So this terminology, so it means that maximum reverse voltage that can be applied to diode before it enters into the breakdown, we call it the peak reverse voltage or peak inverse voltage, right? So, and before I move, okay, now next one is okay, so let's come back to this equation, diode equation, current equation. ID is equals to IS exponential, I will just take VD over VT and take n equals to 1 minus 1, right? So at when you don't apply any voltage, when it is equals to 0, means no biasing, there is no current which is flowing to the system, of course. Second, when you apply the voltage, that you keep on increasing, apply the voltage across the diode VD, as we keep on increasing, we can see the term exponential VD over VT. It will be larger than 1, and then in that case we can write down ID as an IS exponential VD over VT, right? Or we can write down ID over IS exponential VD over VT, and we can also write down VD over VT as an ln natural logarithmic ID over IS. So it means if let's say if IS somehow changes by a factor or order of 10, how much change is going to be happen, the voltage, that we can find it out by this. And the third condition where VD is, let's say this is forward bias condition. This is a forward bias condition. Of course, this is no bias. And third one is when VD is less than 0. That's a reverse bias condition. Under this, your ID is simply minus IS. Right, so that's one, and then I think I'll give you just one or two questions maybe we can work out right now, and let's say how many people are on board now. So some 2 or 3 questions I write down, and then we can discuss, and then okay, you can work out. Let's say a piece of crystalline silicon is doped uniformly with P atoms. P means phosphorus. The doping density is 10 power 16 atoms per centimeter cube. Determine the electron and hole densities. In this material at room temperature and at 35 degrees centigrade. So room temperature you take at 25 degrees centigrade and take at 35 degrees centigrade. You can find it out, right? And okay, and second part is at what doping level does the hole density drop by 3 orders of magnitude. That's a problem 1. Problem number 2, let's say in continuation with this same problem, if the length of this piece, let's say your crystalline silicon, let's say is 1 micrometer and it senses a voltage of 1 volt, determine the drift velocity of electrons and how much time does it means electrons does time does electrons take to traverse this length means of 1 micrometer. So you have taken the silicon bar which is 1 micrometer, right? So this is problem number 2, and then problem number 3, how much does built-in voltage VBI changes if NA or ND, if NA or ND is increased, by 1 order of magnitude, and if it changes by a factor of 3. So if it changes order by, if it is, there is a change in one order, and if it is a factor of 3. So you have to find out for both the cases. And problem number 4, a PN junction. Okay, now you create a doped with, so you have the material like doped with Na is equals to 2 into 10 power 16 per centimeter cube, and D is equals to 9 into 10 power 15 per centimeter cube. Determine this junction capacitance when no reverse bias voltage is applied, and obtain junction capacitance when reverse bias voltage is 1 volt and 5 volt. Right, and this is the last question. Let's say due to manufacturing, error, P side was not doped. If ND is 3 into 10 power 16 per centimeter cube.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Are you writing something on the board?
Yes.
Sir, I am not able to see.
Only you and others also?
Sir, we can see.
We can see, sir.
Yeah, I'm writing problem number 5.
It's weak.
So maybe might be some issue at their side. Just relog in once again, leave and join once again. Then calculate the built-in potential. Calculate the built-in potential at T is equals to 300 Kelvin. Right, so this is 5 problems. So first two are interconnected. A piece of crystallized silicon is doped uniformly with P atoms, phosphorus atoms. The doping density is 10 power 16 atoms per centimeter cube. Determine the electron and hole densities in this material at room temperature 25 as well as 35. So it means you have to find out at 2 different temperatures, and what doping level does the hole density drop by 3 orders of magnitude. All of you understand order of magnitude and the factor? Do you understand order of magnitude and the factor difference between these two? So whenever we say order, means one order means factor of 10. Whenever 3 orders mean 10 power 3. So 2 orders means 10 power 2. Factor means whatever the number it is given. Let's say if I say factor by 2, so it's a 2 multiplication or division. Right, depend on to the sentence. So it's a factor of 3. Let's say next question is says somewhere changes by a factor of 3. Increase, so that's changes by a factor of 3. It can be increase or decrease. Right, so please try out these problems, and okay, then I'll continue. If you have any question that we can discuss, let's start with the 2 more things, and then probably I will make a stop. Is okay? Should I continue, or if you want to ask any questions?
Sir, could you please repeat the last problem?
Oh, it is not completed here. What happened? Okay, so D2 manufacturing error. The P side was not doped. If ND was 3 into 10 power 16 per centimeter cube, we need to calculate the built-in potential. So calculate the built-in potential. What's happening here? So the remaining sentence, I think there's some issue with this pen right now. So calculate the built-in potential at room temperature. Calculate the built-in potential T equals to 300 Kelvin. So let's say due to manufacturing error, P side was not doped. If ND is equals to 3 into 10 power 16 per centimeter cube, obtain the built-in potential. So simply it means that you had the P side, but N side, but this was not doped, means this you don't have any acceptor atoms on this, but you have the donor atoms on this side. So what will be the built-in potential? So this is something like an example of asymmetric. So it may happen the P side is more doped and side is less doped. In that case, you see kind of like a this might be narrower, this might be slightly wider. Right? So this may happen. So this may be a kind of an example of asymmetric doping profiles. Okay, and so okay, let me draw the once again this characteristics. The diode is T V here. Okay, so diode, so this is your forward bias, this is your reverse bias, and diode is on in this as soon as V is greater than VBI, built-in potential, or V gamma. So diode is off. So means this we can think of as an open circuit. So off means this is not conducting, diode is not conducting, means your reverse bias means this is connected to the negative terminal. This is connected to the positive terminal of the battery, and this is connected to the positive terminal and negative terminal. So there is a flow of current ID which is given by here, and that's your ID is equals to IS exponential VT over VT minus 1. Right, so diode is on here, so that's conducts, so it means that's we can think of there is a voltage drop of V gamma, and this diode is off into the reverse bias. So whenever we deal with the problem, let's say since I'm entering into the circuits analysis part of the diode, so depending on to the we have to see what kind of like a voltage crossing at the diode, whether is we have to sense whether is the diode is to be off or to be on. So depending on to the which regime is it. So now we can differentiate. There's a two, generally we consider two different scenarios. Sometimes we say as an ideal diode, and we call as a practical diode. So practical diode is something like this one, where there is a V gamma of sometimes 0.6 or 0.7 volt. So basically it's a specified. So for the silicon, of course, for silicon, there's a voltage drop. In case of ideal diode V gamma, there is no voltage drop. So what does it mean here? That's this is the black line is the characteristics. So whenever there is you input it, when they give any input, any positive input which is given to the diode, it simply conduct. There is no voltage drop. So this is something like ideal diode characteristics, and practical diode characteristics is like this, right? So we can say that that's let's say the terminals of the diode. So it means this is a switch, so it's connected, so the current flows. But in this case, let's say it's open, it's kind of an open switch, and this is a closed switch. So it means there's an open circuit condition, so infinite resistance, very large value resistance, and there is a resistance is kind of like a short circuit. Of course, there is a certain resistance which is being offered because there is slope into the curve. So there is a we consider definitely there is some value of resistance, which is of course not of kilo ohm, but is order of ohms. The value of resistance it is there. So we consider three different situations here, three different situations for modeling, actually for to understand, because if we start is really difficult to solve, let's say, because you are going to turn up into the very not analytically, kind of numerical, because of the diode current which is present into the system is having a non-linear behavior because the exponential Vd or Vt minus 1. So to make it a little bit to understand the circuit, let's say when you put the diode into the circuit analysis part, we consider three different approaches. One, we assume three different approaches. One is ideal diode, of course. If this is ideal diode, is simply V gamma is nothing, this V gamma is 0, so it means it's having a characteristics of this characteristics I and V. Okay, and then we consider practical diode, and under the practical diode we make two assumptions. Two assumptions in the sense we have this characteristics behavior. This is I think this is understood. So I and V on this side. So we assume since it's a slope, so we can consider another one line. So this is a very simplified version, the straight line. So it means there's a slope. Is what is the slope of this curve? So we consider simply constant voltage, or so that's how we call simplified. So red one is what I am drawing here. Okay, let me draw it here. So V gamma is 0.7 volt. So this is simply, we call this a simplified model, and another one is your this one, and then we consider a slope of this curve point here. So we basically we refer this as a piecewise linear model. So it means we simply take it as a diode. We represent the diode as a voltage drop of V gamma, and there is a resistor. So voltage drop V gamma, this is the forward resistance is the forward biasing, and then we have considered, let's say, ideal diode. So this is simply ideal diode, ideal. And in case of simplified model, we simply assume as voltage drop of V gamma, which is 0.7, and ideal diode. Right. So whenever we, let's say, consider, let's say, AC analysis part, when we apply a AC signal, we can go for the piecewise linear models. If there is a, if we consider RF is 0, simply we are turning into this. If we consider RF to be 0, so 1 over slope is the RF. So 1 by slope of this curve simply give you the RF. Right. So we have the 3 different scenario with there. So I think I'll make a stop. We have questions, that's better. We can discuss and continue tomorrow with this. We'll discuss the problems. By that time, please solve these problems, 5 problems. I'll upload the slides as well today. So that you have
Sir,
this.
can you send the page containing question number 1 and question number 2?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Yes, sir, done, sir. Actually, I have to take snaps.
I will upload it after this class. I will upload there after this class. So tomorrow morning we'll discuss on these problems, and then we'll continue with the further on to this diode based circuits, and let's say how we solve it. So we start with the load line and other part, and some circuits we'll solve it tomorrow, and we'll start with the solving. So all of you may like, please solve these problems. Anyone who have done it now also is fine, but let's be discussed tomorrow, so everybody has do it these problems. Any questions?
Sir, can you send us today's slide?
Yes, I will after this, after 10, by 10:15 you'll get it. It will be uploaded into this. If you any questions, queries?